Hello and welcome to the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. Here to talk about the blockbuster trade surrounding the 2017 NBA Draft, as the Boston Celtics trade the #1 overall pick to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange, and listen closely, for the #3 overall pick and for a 2018 pick owned by the Los Angeles Lakers, or I should say via the Lakers, because the Lakers don't have it anymore, obviously. And that pick is protected for everything other than 2 through 5. So if that Lakers pick ends up being 2 through 5, the Celtics get it. If it does not, then instead the Celtics will get the Kings pick in 2019, and I've just heard that that pick could have certain protections, but those details have not been released yet. So essentially, the Celtics have added the #3 pick in this draft, so they traded down 2 spots, and they're adding a 2018 pick via the Lakers. Okay, so they want the Lakers to stink, but not to be good at all, because if the Lakers are better than, let's say, the 5th worst team in the NBA, if they're better than that, then the Celtics could not receive that pick. They'll have to wait till 2019 to get the Kings pick. Okay, so I talked about this trade a bit on Friday, I believe, when it was just being rumored, and I told you that I thought it was going to happen. Again, for some reason, people don't really want to listen to reports. They read reports. They think they're smoke screens. Me, personally, I listen to a lot of this stuff, and now you see why. A lot of this stuff actually happens. Okay, so it's important to pay attention to this stuff. Not all of it, but I think maybe 60-70% of it, which is why I buy into this stuff. So I saw this coming. And in that video, I mainly discussed why the Celtics would make this trade. So I'll talk about that a little more here, but I won't regurgitate too much. And I really want to focus on the Sixers and why this is such a great trade for them to get Markelle Fultz in the 2017 NBA Draft, because that's who they are expected to take now that they have traded up to the #1 overall pick. So for the Celtics, I don't love this deal, but I don't hate it like everyone else. It just depends. I think it's too early to say this is a bad deal. The real value of this trade will be proven over time. It just depends on how the Lakers do next season. Okay, if they can fall between that 2nd to 5th worst team, and then they, in the lottery, end up being anywhere between picks 2 and 5, right? That's what we're mainly looking for there. Because if that's the case, okay, then the Celtics could have potentially added a top 5 player out of next year's draft out of this trade. So they will have moved down 2 spots in this 2017 draft. And in exchange, they would have added a top 5 player in next year's draft. That is enticing. That is exciting. And I know why they're excited about that. But again, if the Lakers happen to be better than the 5th worst team in the NBA and their pick falls out of the top 5, then you get the Kings 2019 pick. And although the Kings roster does not look very good right now, it could look pretty good in 2018. And I could see them being, let's say, the 10th worst team in the NBA. So the Celtics could only end up with the 10th pick in the 2019 NBA draft. That would not be good at all. I mean, any 10th pick and below in any NBA draft, I mean, you can still find players, but they're not very likely to be very good. Whereas Markelle Fultz, who was on the board for you, right for the taking, the Celtics have now passed him up in exchange for moving down 2 spots and potentially getting a top 5 pick next year, but also potentially getting a number 10 pick in 2019, a number 20 pick in 2019. Who knows? Maybe the Kings end up being a playoff team. We're talking 2 years down the road. Not this season, but the season after that. Who knows what kind of team the Kings will be then? They could still stink, but hey, they won a good amount of games after they traded away DeMarcus Cousins this year. They still won over 30 games. Now they're going to have 2 top 10 picks this year. They're going to have probably another top pick next year, probably like top 10 pick next year. They're going to have a nice nucleus. Probably in 2019, they could be winning games. Okay, they're going to have a lot of cap space. I don't know how the Kings are going to do in 2019. So the Celtics, to me, it's a very risky trade. I'm not going to say it's a terrible trade. It just depends. Because if they leave this trade drafting, let's say, Josh Jackson with the #3 pick, or Lonzo Ball, or even Jason Tatum, and then next year they add a big-time center in Mohamed Bamba or DeAndre Ayton, or they draft power forward Wendell Carter. These are projected top 5 picks next year, all very good. then this trade could really be worth it. But it's a risk. It's a big time risk, and a risk that certainly I would not have taken. Okay, so as for the Philadelphia 76ers, this is a great deal. Okay, for the Celtics made a bit of a rebuilding move. The Sixers are making more of a win-now move. More of one. It's not a complete win-now move because Fultz will need to develop, Simmons will need to develop, Embiid will need to develop, but you love the young nucleus in Philadelphia. I remember back in 2014, I felt that if the medical reports were good for Joel Embiid, he should have went #1 overall. I liked him over Wiggins and Parker if he was healthy. He was not, and he hasn't been in the NBA. This year only played like 32 games. Okay, so I love Fultz. I've talked about him before. He's a great prospect. I'm not sure why the Celtics don't see that. This guy's fantastic. He does almost everything. His defense isn't great, yes, and he didn't lead Washington to too many wins. I grant you that, but man, this guy's talented. I see so many traits of James Harden in this guy, so many traits of Dwayne Wade in this guy, so many traits of Brandon Roy in this guy. I think this guy's going to be a stud for the Philadelphia 76ers. But again, be careful before you pick the Sixers to make the playoffs this year. They won about how many games? 27 games this year, and Embiid still can't stay healthy. Last year, the Timberwolves had Karl Anthony Towns putting up huge numbers, great PER, great points, great rebounds. You had Andrew Wiggins putting up huge points, Zach LaVine putting up a good amount of points, and they still couldn't make the playoffs, and they still weren't even close. They won 31 games. They were 10 games away from making the playoffs. Making the playoffs is not easy. In the East, it's easier, okay, but I see the Sixer team winning anywhere from 30 to 35 games. I can't go up to 41. Young teams, young players, they don't win in the NBA. But in time, in 4+ years, oh my goodness, this Sixers team could be good. This nucleus is nice. It's ready to go. Well, it's not ready to go. It has some developing to do, but you're ready, right? This is the nucleus. Now you just have to find surrounding pieces, complementary pieces, and the Sixers still have draft picks to wait on in the future to help build around this team. But I would also look for this team to look for some veterans, you know, bring some veterans into the mold, try to find a shooting guard. Well, it depends. The Sixers are still saying they want to play Ben Simmons at point guard, which, I mean, you can do it, but to me, now you have Markelle Fultz. You play Fultz at point guard, you play Simmons at power forward, and hey, you let Simmons bring the ball up the court from time to time, but now you got your Kyrie and LeBron James. They're not as good, okay, but you got, you know, little versions of them, okay, where LeBron, yes, he can play point guard, but you don't put him at the one. You put him at small forward or power forward, and you let him bring the ball up the court. Okay, now you have Markelle Fultz, who can be your Kyrie Irving. Okay, so that's the way you play these guys to me. I think that's the move, and we'll see what they do. But Brett Brown is being really creative, a little too creative for my liking. So I love this deal for the Sixers. For the Celtics, we'll see. Again, don't hate on it too much, guys, because if they end up with a big-time center next year or a decent power forward next year, this deal could be worth it. But if they only end up with a number 10 pick in 2019, with a number 15 pick in 2019, then this deal definitely will not be worth it, because Markelle Fultz is an absolute stud to me, and he's going to be the best player out of this draft to me, although we'll see what time says. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the big-time trade for the #1 overall pick. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. I want to know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, to subscribe. And until next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. Now I'm out. Peace.